Hello everyone, how are you all doing? As we prepare to kind of step into, well not kind of, as we prepare to step into 2018, I thought it would be appropriate to step into a deeper connection with certain cards in tarot and how we can explore deeper facets or parts of ourselves through connecting with the cards at more than just a divination level. So, and I thought a beautiful way to start that would be with the Five of Knives. This is from the Tarot of Vampires deck. So in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, you would be looking at the Five of Swords, and in the Thoth, that would be Five of Swords as well. Depending on your system, either way, we're talking about the element of air, and we're talking about the number 5. And specifically today, we're talking about perception. And so for that, I am using the Tarot of Vampires image for you. And also, I'm going to be speaking to a lot of Ian Daniels' connection with this 5. So, and Ian Daniels is the creator of Tarot of Vampires, for those of you who don't know, and he wrote the guidebook Phantasmagoria. And a lot of the combination that he used in creating his own system is with the Rider-Waite-Smith system, the Thoth system, and the Order of the Golden Dawn, or the Boda. So the Hermetic Tarot would be inspiration for him in the creation of this deck and the guidebook meanings. So with the Five of Knives, I'm not just talking about your typical divination meaning. I'm talking today about perception and how this affects everything in our lives. And why when we get the Five of Knives from a personal, spiritual exploration for ourselves, as opposed to just asking a question of the cards, we can really look at the gift that we're being given in shifting our life experience. So when the Five of Knives shows up for us, we might find that we're going through a difficult period or experiencing something that's causing a lot of fear to come up for us, and a lot of maybe old patterns are having a tendency to raise themselves up in us. We might be experiencing anxiety about something, but especially this aspect of fear ends up coming up with the Five of Knives. And we can say that because if you look at this image, you can see that there's this phantom, we could call it a demon. There's something over the sleeping girl, and it's posing a threat, and it's causing fear. And we can see that she's kind of in a nightmare landscape, right? A shadow landscape. That's what's coming up for her in this 5. And so we'll often find for ourselves that there's at least an area in our lives where we're experiencing that fear, that concern, possible manipulation. And we might find that it plays out in our interchanges with others or communication, or it could just be something we're going through that's causing this anxiety or fear to come to the surface, in which we want to react in a habitual pattern for ourselves. So a way of reacting, of dealing with a situation that isn't healthy, that we like to stop doing, but ends up being the gut reaction because we've done it so many times. Our body is now accustomed to reacting to the certain situation, this certain aspect of fear or drama or trauma. We're used to reacting that way, and our body kicks in for us, and we end up reacting to the situation that way. The beauty of drawing the Five of Knives is that we're being encouraged to change that habitual pattern and to see the situation as an opportunity in which we can shift a habitual pattern instead of something to be greatly feared and to cause us to, sink into a deeper depression about ourselves or our life when something like this shows up. And this is where perception becomes essential. Because we're talking about the element of air, we know we're talking about our mind, and we're talking about thought and what we choose to dwell on, right? So we can marry that to the situation. How do we typically respond to something when something difficult seems to pop up? Maybe we get in an argument with a friend, or something happens and we've lost something that we really felt was very important to us, and we don't know who we are now without that, right? Looking at how we tend to typically respond to that with our thinking is where we can actually find a gift. Because now we can choose how we're going to respond to it. So if we tend to focus on the negative or to go automatically to the worst thing that could happen and let that be our sole mental focus throughout the day or throughout that experience, the Five of Knives is giving us an opportunity to change that, to allow our perspective to shift. Because our perspective is just that, our perspective. And when the Five of Knives shows up, it's probably not actually what's going on. It's probably just a habitual pattern that's very comfortable for us, that because we're afraid, because we're out of our comfort zone, we've snapped back into, right? Now, why am I saying this? How can I say this to you about the Five of Knives? Let's look at the actual artwork. Okay, now I know, I'm sorry guys, this is my iPad. You'll all have to forgive me. I'm going to get more high tech as we go here. Do you see this knife right here? Do you see how it's right next to her? At any point in time, she can sit up and grab this knife and eliminate the fear. So it's up to her. And this is how we know that our perspective on the situation is just that, our perspective, not what's actually happening. So if we can allow ourselves to step out of reacting and instead sit with our intention, come back to what matters to us, our sense of self, what's important to us, and also that every experience is just that, an experience, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for a lesson, an opportunity for change, an opportunity for empowerment. Then we can allow our perspective to shift, which means that we can view the situation in an entirely different, new way. So this is where we can go back to the Hanged Man, and we can go back to the myth, the potent story of Odin hanging from the tree upside down and literally shifting his perspective completely, right? So we're being given a chance to step into the archetype of Odin, to hold that energy of the Allfather, literally shifting a situation on its head, turning it so that we can see it in a different way. And then we can start to see the fear as not something to run away from or to engage in a negative way, but instead as an opportunity for us to step deeper into our sense of self, and also to have an experience that serves not only us, but all beings, the entire tribe, right? So perhaps you've drawn this card and you're in an argument with a partner, or a fear about a partner ends up coming up, right? So because we're talking about fear, let's say it's a larger fear about, I don't know, being rejected or betrayal, right? Okay, let's say that's the fear that comes up. Instead of responding in a habitual pattern which would encourage us to, like, look for proof that something's actually going on, or look for proof that we're going to be rejected so that we can save ourselves from any possible pain. Instead, if we can realize that it's just a mental loop that we've gotten stuck in and allow our perspective to shift, we can choose to find and see and explore ways in which we're actually not being rejected or betrayed at all in this situation. Instead, there's more love being offered to us. So let's say it's not just in a partnership aspect that this comes up, or a friendship. Let's say that this ends up coming up in regards to finances. You have something catastrophic happens, and your car is damaged, you can't drive your car, or you can't pay your bills for a month. And there's a huge amount of fear about survival that ends up coming up. The Five of Knives can encourage us to, instead of being afraid and allowing that to stop us from finding creative solutions, instead to step into a space of empowerment and co-creation and allow ourselves to look at new ways in which we can create financial abundance, financial income, but also allow a new beginning to start for us. Because if instead of looking at it as being catastrophic, we can look at it as a very finite and clear ending that allows a new beginning to start for us, isn't that empowering? Doesn't that allow us to see and experience a shift? And so with the Five of Knives, we're really being encouraged to look at our perspective and to shift it out of a space of fear and into a space of trust and empowerment for ourselves. In our life experience, we are the ones in the driver's seat, and so it's up to us how we're going to respond to each and every situation, and it's up to us what we choose to believe. Are we going to choose to believe that we're supported by the universe, by Great Spirit, by the grandmothers, by whatever you want to call universal life force energy? Or are we going to choose to believe that the universe is out to get us? Are we going to trust or not? And the Five of Knives gives us a very empowering, like in-your-face way of dealing with our perspectives and our habitual patterning in relation to fear. So from a reader's perspective, it's pretty fucking exciting to see what you can do when this card shows up. When we're living this card, it's a little scarier, and it's definitely no joke, right? Like, it's serious things are happening when we see this card, but it's also an opportunity for us to get excited about realizing that we are in control of our mind and what we choose to focus on and how we're going to choose to see each and every situation, experience, lesson that shows up in our lives. And don't we want to choose to believe that we're supported? Don't we want to choose trust? We're being given an opportunity to make that choice and to be really empowered in our experience of self. So as we step into the new year in 2018, Five of Knives really encouraging us to release that habitual patterning of fear and negative self-talk, and instead step into an experience of being loved and supported by the universe, an experience of trust and excitement for the changes, expected and unexpected, and with Five of Knives, probably unexpected, that end up coming up in our lives. So, thank you so much for spending some time with me and connecting in this way. I wish you all well in your work with the cards. And as always, I am sending you much love and many blessings. See you in the next video. Bye.